Foo Fighters at Wembley. I mean, I talked in my panel a bit more about why it meant so much, but just it was like all the forces combined. And Foo Fighters have continued to be a great band, but even for them, that was a moment. It was a moment for everybody. Wembley was new, all the promoters that were involved, it was new kind of level for everyone. Everyone stepped up, and there are some ingredients that happened on that show that will never be able to happen again. But you'll have to watch my panel for that. So my name's Roly Oliver. I'm business development for a company called Universal Pixels, and we do all sorts of screen things. So whether it's projection or giant LED walls from Spice Girls, Chemical Brothers, Depeche Mode, Arctic Monkeys, the whole range. And we also do film and TV stuff. So we'll build giant volumes for Apple TV, right down to funny little car scenes, or, you know, Empire of Light, the projector in Empire of Light, that's our projector. So it's all stops in between. So that's what our world is. Literally blew my mind. Having seen it right from the beginning, and then coming round when I came up for Production Futures, Craig actually took me on a tour himself round all the different spaces. And it just, if I was to write a list of all the box ticking that needed to be done for a college to have all the facilities, it's gone way beyond any of that. You know, a lot of them I can see that they're kind of trying to get into it, but not necessarily getting the whole way. But the very fact it's got everything from a really plush venue to a gig venue to the broadcast suite to the esports, and then coming to Production Futures, seeing the panels and seeing it's leading the industry. It's not just a college, it's actually leading the industry. So that was the thing that blew me away. And Craig, obviously he did his pitch, but the fact that the audio studios, people come to Confetti because they've got more experience in audio studios than anyone. So people say, well, can we have your advice? Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I'd come across Industry Week during lockdown because obviously I follow these sorts of things, and I'd seen it come up and the kind of people that came through. And then when Joe approached me about doing this and he gave me the list of the people last year, I mean, look at the list. I mean, look at it. And then I'm looking at the list now, and sadly I can't be around all week, but there's ones I want to go to. I mean, there's ones I should be at now. You know, it's kind of, I should have come up yesterday. So it's incredible. It's what everyone should be doing, but Confetti are doing it. This was exactly what my panel was about. Was you get all sorts of people talk about the technical side of things, and yes, I've done the technical side of things. Mine was to kind of break down the myth and to make sure people understood that from day one, everyone they're meeting at day one, they will be meeting them again several days, years, decades through their career, and it will shape their career, the impression they made on that day. And it's not always the people above you, it's the people who are also coming through. It might be someone 2 years below you. I talked to one of the guys who was talking to me about working for SSE, about the stagehand. He's your future production manager or artist manager or artist. And it's about, I mean, it should be anyway, about respecting people in the industry, but respect them because they're your future. Well, I think the thing with Confetti being up here is the country still has a problem with regions, and they don't necessarily notice the stuff that goes on, but it's really going to open people's eyes to what Confetti can do, and the fact that because they've got the business model, they're able to go in and say, this is how we're doing things. And it's very, very expensive to do these things, so it takes some chops to be able to do it, but they're going straight in at the top level. I mean, no one's going to be able to question the level that they're coming at, so I think it's going to make waves. The streets are paved with gold. I mean, seriously, that's why I moved to London when I went to find work. Work is just there, so you can learn and you can work at the same time. And yes, it's expensive to live, but you know, there's more jobs. So it's just the correct way of getting everything to combine in a positive way. So I think London has it all. Basically, my job is to be out there in the industry, meeting everyone possible, going to endless events, and I believe in brainstorming. So it's like you get a little bit of that over there. And I talked about it in the panel about being the catalyst. And it's not like I'm going to walk into the company and say, we're doing 4 world tours on the back of conversations I've had. But it's like, it's that little sprinkle of ingredient of that last bit of encouragement. But then the other side of it is that everyone's busy doing their job. I'm the one that goes and sees Robbie and goes and chats to all the crew, makes sure they're all right. They're people who've done all my career with, even the caterers, early 90s, I was doing tours with them, and they're still doing tours with me now. So it's about kind of that connection with the outside world. So it's a bit of tech finding, it's a bit of networking, it's a bit of making sure people are being looked after, it's a bit of crew mum, it's a bit of keeping an eye on people in the warehouse. It's like, I'm a big believer in the whole mental health aspect, but not as a box ticking thing, as a genuine thing, just kind of making sure that everyone is looked after. So here's the bit I've only recently learnt about, and I wish I knew about it then, and then I'd have focused on it more, which is Myers-Briggs. When I did Myers-Briggs and I looked at my 16 personalities and I came out as a campaigner, you look at the good and bad of campaigner, it's me. And so I've doubled down on the good bits and realised the bad bits I struggle with. Although someone explained to me something really interesting, which is there are elements of it that come in the bad bits, but it means that you try harder with it. So that actually when I'm doing something that has to be a bit structured, I'm possibly more structured in those moments because I have to work harder at it. So that's something. But I think just being aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and that's where I play to now. Whereas I think so being aware of that, and it's one of the things I talked about in the panel, is that it's all about a team. A tour would not survive if it was just a bunch of Rolys, because it would just drive everyone nuts. So you need that balance of personalities and skill sets, but the skill set is the same as personalities. Sometimes the personalities create that. So you need that quiet person who's actually diligently kind of tied up all the gear backstage because no one else has thought of it. You need someone else who's the loudmouth because actually they're going to sort out the local crew. You need someone else who's going to coax someone along. You need the caterers because they're going to work bloody hard, but it's the whole balance of stuff, and it's finding your little slot in it, but making sure that you're working as part of the team, because it is the team that's going to make it happen. And that was I can't labour it enough, the catalyst bit, that you might not think you're important, but you actually are important, or actually you might think you're very important, but actually without that other person, you're nothing. Oh, I could tell you one specific situation where I went to Portugal to do a string of festivals. They were called the Black and White Festival, which actually was an anti-racism thing. And it was really strange because we'd come all the way from London to do a load of Portuguese bands. And so there was a massive language barrier, and we were doing one of the shows, and it had been pouring with rain like you wouldn't believe. All the structures were about to collapse, and it was beyond just some desk breaking. And I was the one that had to stop the show. So then I stopped the show, and in the middle of stopping the show, the crowd just started throwing bottles at me, and then of course it stopped raining, but it didn't really change anything because there was already the water in all the roofs. I mean, everything was about to collapse, shoddy stages. So it's a scary thing, and that's one of the things from Roskilde. They didn't have any show stop procedure, and it's something that I'm really obsessed with nowadays, of people fully understanding that side of it, that there's a point where you have to just stand up and say, I know it's really awful, but we've just got to stop everything now, and if you don't do it, there will be consequences, and people forget the consequences, but when you've seen the other side of it, it's a real thing. I often ask this question of myself, and I say I wouldn't change anything, because if I changed anything, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I've had awful times and I've had amazing times, but they've all been part of it. So like both the big companies I work for, Eighth Day and Brit Row, I worked both of them for 8 years, and I probably should have left sooner. But if I'd have left sooner, I'd have missed out on a whole load of things that actually have become part of my life. I mean, I've missed doing the Foo Fighters at Wembley, So one of my things that it's a Roly theory, no one else has got it, which is to do with 5-year waves. And your life is 5-year waves, and they're all going along like this. And sometimes they overlap in a perfect storm. But at any point in your life, you look back 5 years before, you won't recognise where you were, and you're not going to recognise where you are in 5 years. So you think this is it. But actually in 5 years' time, here I am doing video.